Hello students, welcome to today's English class. Today I'll be explaining the poem A Tiger in the Zoo. And A Tiger in the Zoo is a beautifully composed poem by Leslie Norris. The poem speaks about a tiger who has been imprisoned in a cage in a zoo, and the poem also makes us think over human beings cruelty towards animals. The poet also criticizes, condemns the existence of the zoo, because in zoos animals are kept away from their natural habitat, and it's a kind of exploitation, it's a kind of torture, it's a kind of atrocity on them. It should be avoided. All the animals have their birthright to live in their natural habitat. If we human beings are kept away from our natural habitat, if we are not allowed to move freely as we want to, how would we be feeling? So the similar kind of pain, the similar kind of agony, the similar kind of torture the animals feel and they go through. So that entire thing has been shown in this poem through a tiger. The poet has made a wonderful contrast between a tiger who has been imprisoned in a zoo and a tiger in its natural habitats, or the same tiger who has been kept in the zoo. Had it been in its natural habitat, how would it have reacted and how would it have behaved? So this beautiful contrast is there. The superfluous existence of zoo is also being somewhere highlighted. So let's read this poem in between the lines and just relish the poetic beauty of this poem. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his cage, on pads of velvet quiet in his quiet phrase. So the poet has shown here a tiger who has been stalking. Stalking means walk. Stalk means to walk down a distance, to travel down a distance, to walk quietly. He walks in his vivid stripes. The meaning of word vivid is bright. Stripes means the natural the natural stripes on the body of the tiger, the natural lines on the body of the tiger. So with his bright stripes, the poet has shown that with his bright stripes the tiger walks down the distance of the cage. He's just able to take a few steps because the cage is not long enough, the cage is not wide enough for him to travel a long distance. So he just takes those few restricted steps within the boundary of the cage, and at this moment the bright strips on his body are clearly visible. Fine. On pads of velvet quiet, pads of velvet quiet here refers to the pose of the tiger. Pose of the tiger. The poet says that pose of the tiger are so soft, they are as soft as a piece of velvet, and when he walks in the cage, he seems to be quite silent. There is no voice coming out, because walking on his soft pose doesn't make any noise in his quiet rays, and moreover he walks with his quiet rays, means he walks quietly. And rays, the meaning of rays is extreme anger. It means the tiger, though he is extremely angry, he is extremely wrathful, but still he is quiet. He is not expressing his anger. He has suppressed his anger. And why is the tiger angry? The tiger is angry, the tiger is enraged, because his freedom has been curtailed. He has been imprisoned, he has been trapped in the cage which is quite contradictory to his nature. Tigers are territorial in nature. They are the denizens of forests. They are supposed to roam around in the forests. But such a ferocious animal, such a dangerous animal has been trapped in a cage, and tiger is extremely helpless. The tiger is extremely agonized. The tiger is extremely painful that his freedom has been curtailed, and he has to walk exposing his bright stripes of the body, and he cannot walk freely. He cannot take just a few steps, and he can just travel down the length of the cage on his soft velvet pads. And see the irony, this ferocious looking animal cannot even express his anger. He knows he is helpless. He has suppressed his anger. Otherwise, tigers are extremely ferocious animal. They are angry. They get angry at a slight provocation. But he has completely suppressed his natural personality. It has been snatched from him actually. So, in the first stanza, a tiger has been shown in the confines of a cage. Fine. Second stanza, let's explore. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Here, the poet says that instead of a tiger's being in the zoo and walking the length of the cage, what should it be? What should a tiger be actually doing? He should be lurking in shadow. Ideally, a tiger should be lurking in shadow. Lurk means to stay hidden in ambush. Tigers, when they attack upon their prey, when they attack upon other animal, when they hunt upon other animal, they just do it quite cleverly. They just keep on staying around in shadow. They stay hidden away from the eyes of their prey, and as soon as they get an opportunity, they just appear from nowhere, from behind the long grass. They slide. They appear in a sliding way, and they just attacked upon their prey that happens near the water hole. They just keep on lurking around a water body. It might be a pond, it might be a river, where they expect a plump means fat deer to pass. Generally these deer, antelope, these animal come to a water body to quench their thirst, and one can see that a tiger lurking around, hiding behind a long grass in shadow, looking for a perfect opportunity to pounce upon its prey. So this is a natural job of a tiger. This is the natural routine of a tiger. So ideally, a tiger should be waiting near a water body for a plump deer to pass, and hidden behind the long grass, it should look for a perfect opportunity, a perfect chance to pounce upon its prey. But instead of doing this entire act of hunting, the tiger has been forced to just stay trapped, to stay imprisoned in the cage. That is not right. He should be lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Fine. So here a tiger has been shown in ambush. There is a word ambush. I would like to type it for you. Ambush means to stay hidden, like animals stay in ambush before attacking their prey. Fine. So lurking around, staying around in ambush, and long grass behind the hidden grass, and water hole, a water body. Fine, it may be a pond or a river, and where tigers expect any plump deer to pass so that they can pounce upon them. They look for their prey. It is their natural job. Fine. It's not that tigers are inhumane, or tigers are cruel, or tigers are brutal in their process of hunting. No, it's their natural task actually. If tigers stop hunting the other animals they hunt upon, the entire cycle of nature would get disturbed, the entire food chain would get disturbed. So we cannot say that tigers are brutal, or tigers are cruel, or they are callous, they are indifferent. No, it's not like that. Tigers are meant to survive in this particular way. It's the god made cycle. Fine. So they should be doing this instead. The tiger should be doing this instead of being imprisoned in a cage. So that contrast has been shown here. Fine. So you must have got the meanings of the difficult words up to these two stanzas. Let me again explain the meanings of the difficult words, especially stalks. The meaning of stalks is to walk quietly. Otherwise, meaning of stalk is to follow somebody silently at a close pursuit. So here, just walking down the length of the case. Vivid means bright. Stripes means the natural lines on the skin of the tiger. Fine. Pads means pose, POWS. Velvet is a fabric. Quiet, you know. Raise, I have told you, it is extreme anger. Lurking means to just staying around in a hidden position, to stay around in ambush and look for an opportunity to pounce upon. And plump means fat. So in these two first stanzas, the poet has shown a contrast between a tiger in a cage in the zoo, or a tiger in the forest. Fine. What is the difference between the tigers in these two different situations? He should be snarling around houses. What else a tiger does when he is in he is in his natural surroundings? He should be snarling around houses at the jungles, as tiger should not be confined in the cage. What should a tiger be doing? A tiger should be snarling. This word snarling means growling. You know, tigers growl when they are in anger, or when they look for a prey, they are growling. So this tiger, who has been kept in imprisonment in the cage, instead of being here, tiger should be, growling at the jungles, as nowadays, since human beings have taken a toll on nature, they have infiltrated into the animals' natural habitat. They have indulged into a process of deforestation and cutting the jungles. They have made their own dwellings, their own houses, and there are some villages which are in close proximity to the jungle. So sometimes what happens, tigers looking for an animal to hunt, looking for their prey, sometimes they come at the edge of the human settlement, because it's not that they are wrong in coming at the edge of the human settlement. Human beings have disturbed their settlement. Human beings have infiltrated. Human beings have encroached upon their natural habitat. So sometimes wandering around looking for a prey, they come near the edge of the human settlement, where humans are living in villages. And what do? They snarled around houses. They snarl, they growl around the human settlement at the edge of the jungle, baring their white fangs. Baring means showing, exposing. While just growling, the tigers show their white fangs, the teeth, their hunting teeth, their sharp teeth, they expose to the people to frighten them. His claws, they also frighten the people with their claws, terrorizing the village. This way, tigers terrorize the villagers. So ideally, this should be the job of a tiger. This should be the task done by a tiger. Instead of helplessly being imprisoned in a cage, tiger should ideally be either lurking in shadow, sliding through long grass near the water hole where plump deer pass. Means it should ideally be staying in ambush near a water body, looking for a perfect opportunity to pounce upon its prey, that is a plump deer or any other animal. Or it should be wandering around the edge of the human settlement, and it should be frightening the villagers, exposing its white teeth and claws, and producing a loud horrible sound, so that animals so that other villagers get frightened. And here also the poet doesn't intend to say that tigers are evil, tigers are wicked, tigers are callous and heartless, and they are wrong in frightening in frightening the human beings. Tigers do not intend to cause any harm to the human beings. This frightening to the human beings is a kind of frustration, or is a kind of a revolt, towards the human beings encroaching into their natural habitat. And perhaps tigers do not want human beings to further encroach their natural habitat. Fine, tigers do not intend to harm, or other animals, all the wild animals do not intend to harm human beings if they are left uninterrupted in their natural habitat. But since human beings interrupt into their natural habitat and their natural processes, they attack them, they fear them. And until or unless a tiger is provoked very much, a tiger doesn't attack human beings. This is being told here. The tigers are not callous, the tigers are not heartless, and they are not brutal that way, in immoral way. No. So, the tiger, who ideally should be staying in its natural habitat, looking for an opportunity to attack upon its prey near a water body, staying in ambush and staying hidden, and coming all of a sudden out from behind the long grass and pounce upon the animal drinking water at the water body. Or a tiger who should be wandering at the edge of the human settlement, at the edge of the jungle where there is human settlement, and there exposing its frightening teeth and growling at the villagers and frightening them. These are the activities a tiger is supposed to indulge into. But instead of these natural activities of the tiger, he has been forced to just stay in an enclosed cage where he cannot even walk freely. His freedom is curtailed, his freedom has been snatched from him by the human beings, by the owner of the zoo, or the government running the zoo, or the people who own the zoo. But in contrast to being in his natural surroundings and indulging into the activities he is supposed to indulge in, he is locked in a concrete cell. How ironical, how pitiable, how plightful it is that such a ferocious animal, such an elegant looking animal has been locked in a cell built of concrete, in a strongly built cell. Concrete means it's a mixture of cement, sand, gravel, and stones with which buildings are made. His strength behind bars, and the entire strength of the tiger has been snatched from him, and it is trapped behind the bars. Were this tiger outside the bars, it would show its strength to the human beings. But since the tiger is behind bars, it cannot even show he cannot even show his strength. His strength has been taken from him. His strength has been trapped, stalking the length of his cage so helplessly. When his strength has been taken, he doesn't have any other option to walk the length of the cage, to walk to and fro the length of the cage. Such a great amount of helplessness has been depicted in tigers, stalking the length of his cage. Had the tiger been in his natural habitat, it could have roamed anywhere freely without any fear, without any slavery, ignoring visitors. Here the tiger that in case he had been, I'll be using he, since there is a figure of speech personification. I'll be explaining all the figures of speeches at towards the end of the explanation. Ignoring visitors in the zoo, the tiger that has been behind the bars ignores the visitors. The same visitors, if had confronted the tigers in tigers natural habitat, he would have shown them that how powerful he was. He would have shown them that how ferocious he was. But the same tiger now is extremely helpless, and he has just become an object of entertainment for the people who otherwise would have got frightened to death after having just a glance of the tiger. So this is the contrast. Fine. He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars, and stares with his brilliant eyes at the brilliant stars. So here the poet has shown that at the end, at the end he has shown that at the time of the evening or during the night, when there are no visitors coming to the zoo, how does tiger spend his time? He hears the last voice at night, the patrolling cars. He hears the sound coming from the sirens of the patrolling cars. Patrolling cars here refers to the security guards who take rounds during the night to look for that everything is perfect, in perfect order or not. So that sound is heard by the sound of the patrolling cars is heard by the tiger at night. And the helpless tiger stares with his brilliant eyes, with his brilliant looking eyes. He just stares blankly at the bright stars in the sky. He doesn't have anything else to do. His freedom has been curtailed. So in order to deviate his mind from his slavery, in order to deviate his mind from his sadness, in order to deviate his mind from his plight, from his miserable condition, he blankly stares towards the sky and look at the brilliant stars, aspiring for his lost freedom. He must be yearning for his lost freedom. He must be desiring desperately his lost freedom, but he is helpless. Fine. So this is the poem Tiger in the Zoo, where it has been shown that a tiger has been entrapped in a zoo, and had the same tiger been outside, if the same tiger that has been entrapped in a cage in the zoo, if it had been outside, if it would have spent his time in altogether different way, in its natural way, lurking in a shadow, sliding through long grass near the waterhole where plump deer pass, or snarling around houses at the jungle says, barring his white fangs, his claws, terrorizing the village. This is the natural schedule of a tiger, but unfortunately he has been trapped. So this is the explanation of the poem, my dear students. Now I'll be explaining you the literary devices used by the poet. So first let's begin with the rhyme scheme. As you know, rhyme scheme we find out just checking for the last word of every line and the sound and similarity of the sounds. So here stripes, if we denote it with a, cage is a different sound if we denote it with b, quiet is altogether different from A and B, we denote it with C. And rage is a sound that rhymes with B, so case, that is, so A, B, C, B is the rhyme scheme. Similarly, you will find that the same rhyme scheme follows in all the 5 stanzas of the poem. You can look that on your own. Fine. Moving on to next literary devices. The first literary device the poet has used is personification. He has used he for a tiger. Personification is a literary device where a poet passes human attributes to a non-human thing or animal. So tiger, the word he has been used for the tiger instead of using it. So here is a personification. And the next figure of speech is here. This for 1 to 2 lines, let me mark it for you. These here there is a figure of speech, enjambment. Enjambment is a figure of speech when in a poem the same line continues to the next line without any punctuation. So you'll find that at the end of the first line there is no punctuation, the same line continues to the second line. He stalks in his vivid stripes the few steps of his case. So this is enjambment, my dear students. Moving on, let's find any other literary device. Yeah, here the pads of, let me mark it, the pads of velvet quiet. Here there is a literary device, metaphor. What is metaphor? Metaphor is a comparison between two distinct elements, two completely indistinct elements, actually two completely different things. There is a comparison without the use of the words as or like. If there is a comparison using as or like, then there is simile, but here is metaphor. Pads of velvet quiet, the tiger's soft paws, 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 have been compared with soft velvety pads. Fine. So here is a figure of speech metaphor, I have explained that. And next figure of speech, that is quite obvious here in the last line of the first stanza, when the poet uses this expression quiet raise. In this expression there is a figure of speech, oxymoron. What is oxymoron, dear students? When in a piece of poetry two extremely contradictory words are put together to draw a significant effect, that is oxymoron. Quiet means peaceful and raise means anger. That is not peaceful, that is violent, that is turbulent. Fine. So these are two opposite words, quiet and raise. How can raise be quiet? How can somebody be quiet in anger? So here is a literary device, oxymoron, my dear students. Let's find out the same in the some in the second stanza. Second stanza also there is personification. Fine, personification is there again, and here again in the first 2 lines there is enjambment, have been explained. Fine. Okay, besides this there is no other literary device. Again personification here. Personification is there in throughout the poem. Fine. Enjambment you can find here, and then to further to there is no enjambment because comma is there. And last 2 lines also there is enjambment. See, the same line continues to the next line. So these are the literary devices in this poem, and the poem has also been explained to you. The theme of the poem is the contrast between a tiger in a zoo and the tiger in its natural habitat. Fine. And it also speaks about the cruelty of animals perpetrated by the human beings in the zoo. So should zoo exist or not? This poem again raises this question. Fine. I hope you have understood the poem. If there is any query, you can left that on my WhatsApp number. Meanwhile, just keep reading, keep learning. Thank you very much. Take a good care of yourself.